He would sometimes come home with a faint smell of perfume on his clothes and claimed it was from helping to move female patients. Again, I accepted this at face value, but it always struck me as odd how it seemed to have the same scent of perfume. Once the proverbial barn door was open, I started seeing a lot of things that I'd missed before. Our love life in the bedroom had cooled off considerably, which wasn't helped by him having to leave the house at odd hours to fill in for other nurses that called in sick. I also recalled where I'd seen the name Paula before, and a call to the hospital confirmed she was a doctor there. For the next week or so, I was walking around in daze trying to put all of the pieces together. One of our kids had left a book in Dave's car, so it was an excuse to visit the hospital. My kid went up to get Dave's car key. I talked to a nurse in the lobby and joked about how work phones seem like a blessing, but all they do is put you on call 24 hours a day. This led to her eventually telling me that the hospital was too cheap to give cell phones to nurses, so only high-level executives got them, which didn't include Dave. With pretty much everything confirmed, I took some personal time off the next day to talk to a divorce lawyer. The news she gave me was horrible. We lived in a community property state with no-fault divorce. I made more money than Dave. He'd been the primary caretaker of the kids, and we've been married for more than 10 years. Basically, if I filed for divorce, I'd be screwed. Lose the house, pay alimony, he'd get a huge chunk of my retirement, and I'd pay child support for the next decade unless I was lucky enough to be awarded joint custody. The worst thing she told me was that it didn't matter that he cheated. It didn't matter. I was crushed. There was only one person I could trust with this kind of information. She was a fellow teacher that had also made the jump to administration, but was stuck at a school site. Let's call him Andy. Andy had been married at 19, but his marriage was annulled when his wife got pregnant from another man. Since then, he'd focused on his career, and we'd found we were kindred spirits in a lot of ways regarding K-12 education. I talked to Andy. He said something to me that changed my whole mindset. If you don't like the hand you're dealt, change the deck. I realized I had two problems. I made more money than Dave, and he had more time than me to be the primary caretaker of the kids. The second issue was actually kind of easy. At every district office, there are jobs that are fast tracks to higher positions, and there are jobs that administrators suffer through. One of these dead-end regulatory positions was open again. I sat down with our district superintendent and asked about being transferred to that position. At first, he was shocked, but I told him that it was my time to take one for the team and it would fill a hole in my admin experience. He agreed. It was really just crunching numbers with no personnel or student interaction, so I could set my schedule, even take a laptop home and work there. With my new free time, I began taking the kids to school, picking them up from school, and taking them home. I'd help them with their homework, make dinner. Goal was to become their primary caretaker. I can't explain how much I really enjoyed taking a more active role in their day-to-day lives. My salary hadn't been reduced, so I needed to find a way for Dave to make a lot more money than he was in his current nursing position. I remember Dave being mad that his supervisor told him in the future, bachelor degrees will be worthless and everyone will need at least a master's degree. Dave had worked hard to get his bachelor's, and that supervisor's comment peed all over his hard work. I talked him into starting a master's program. I told him that since I had a much more flexible work schedule, I would keep taking care of the kids. He was reluctant at first, then I said, "You could have every evening free to study or go to class, whatever you want to do." I saw his eyes immediately light up, probably thinking that he could spend more time with Paula. To make sure he was actually completing his master's courses, I paid his tuition and fees directly to his university. It was going to take him between 2 to 3 years to finish. Those years were rough at times. I could tell every time he was rushing off or coming back from seeing Paula. There was an excitement or sense of satisfaction in his eyes that just wasn't there when he was doing his coursework. I had to either smile or pretend I didn't notice. My temper got short at times, and I found myself in arguments over petty nonsense. A couple of times I almost blew the whole charade, having to bite my tongue and apologize rather than scream insults at him that he deserved, and remained my confidant through all of this. I'd recommended him for my previous fast-track position, and he joined me at the district office. Andy was qualified, hardworking, ambitious, and only needed his foot in the door to impress the higher-ups. I even got a few pats on the back for recommending him after he impressed everyone. Andy and I started our own affair. It wasn't some hot-blooded passionate romance, but two friends giving each other what they need. Without Andy, I wouldn't have been able to maintain the charade of being the oblivious cuckold. But when Dave would come home smiling after spending time with Paula, I was able to bear it, smiling back because I had my own lover. After 3.5 years, Dave completed his master's and was promoted at his hospital. His salary went up substantially and was now higher than mine. When the kids and I made him a congratulations dinner, I made a joke about him being the breadwinner for the family. With these new facts, he drafted the petition and filed it. When the kids were with my mother, I had Dave served. The deputy knocked on our front door and I let him in, pointing at my husband. He asked his name and then handed him a copy of the divorce petition. With the deputy standing there, I told Dave I wanted a divorce.